Let's be very clear. What we are seeing is not progress. This is regressive. It's taking us back in time, at least half a century. Title IX was implemented in 1972, so 52 years ago. That's what we're going back to by asking women to smile, to step aside, to allow these men onto our podiums, telling us that we're the problem if we don't want to or feel totally comfortable undressing next to a fully naked, fully intact man. That's not what progress is.
That actually happened to you. That
Yes.
you were at the NCAA championships where Leah Thomas was present, who was 550 something as a man, but was coming in fifth in your race, quote, as a woman. You had to change in a locker room with him.
That's right.
Fully intact. And there was no surgery.
Fully intact. No, not at the time. I don't know now, but no, not at the time. And keep in mind, we knew going into this meet, this was in March of 2022. We found out a couple weeks before the meet, the NCAA, of course, they were pandering back and forth, sitting on the fence. Do we let him compete with the women? Do we not? Ultimately, they decided like 3 weeks before they announced that his participation in the women's category was a non-negotiable. So we knew we would be competing against him. We did not know we would be changing in the locker room. There was no forewarning. There was no ways that we could have made other arrangements for ourselves if this was something that we felt uncomfortable with. The first time that we became aware we would be undressing next to this 6'4", 22-year-old man, fully intact, fully exposing himself, was when we were inches away from said man fully exposing himself.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll kind of set the scene because the swimming locker room, it's not a place of modesty. These suits that you put on, they're skin tight, they're paper thin. It takes about 15, 20 minutes, your racing suit, to really poke and prod yourself into these suits. 20 minutes of which you're fully exposed, very intimate. You have friends oftentimes like helping you get yourself into these suits. Then I think we can all agree, a locker room's not a comfortable place, but growing up a swimmer, you almost become comfortable feeling vulnerable in that environment. Mm. But I want you to put yourself in our shoes or your daughter in our shoes. You have your back turned, again, putting on your suit, and all of a sudden you hear a man's voice in that locker room. You turn around, you look up because he's so tall, and there's a 6'4" man undressing, taking off his women's swimsuit and putting on his street clothes.
Wow.
It's feelings of course, it's awkward. It's embarrassing. It's uncomfortable. It was inherent for every girl in that changing space to cover themselves, whether it was with their hand or their clothes or their towels, and to get out as quickly as they could. But I think the best way to describe how we felt was, it was an utter violation. It felt like betrayal. And really, it was traumatic. And not even just traumatic because of what we were forced to see or how we were forcibly exploited. It was traumatic for me to know just how easy it was for those people who created these policies, enforced these policies, to totally dismiss our rights to privacy without even a second thought, without even bare minimum forewarning us that this would be the arrangement.
And when you think back about the messaging before he got to you, he was swimming with the UPenn swimmers on their team. And those girls had quietly tried to raise objections because they'd been going through this all season. And were told they needed therapy to work on their bigotry.
They were told they were the problem. 16 of the girls signed on to an email to University of Pennsylvania. Some of these girls, even victims, previous victims, survivors of sexual assault. I know of one girl who was raped in a bathroom setting prior to going to college. And so this was understandably a very triggering and traumatic experience for her. And so 16 signed on to the school, expressing their discomfort in the locker room, to which the school, I swear I have a screenshot of the email. The school responded back with, if you feel uncomfortable seeing male genitalia, here are some counseling resources that you should seek in an attempt to re-educate yourselves. They had to go to mandatory LGBTQ education meetings weekly to learn about how just by being cisgender, they were oppressing Leah Thomas. Their school even went as far as to tell these girls that if they did speak out and any harm whatsoever were to come towards Thomas's way, whether it was physical harm, mental harm, emotional harm, self-inflicted for that matter, they said, then understand you girls are solely responsible. And that would make you responsible for a potential death. And that would make you a murderer.
Oh my gosh.
And you don't want to be a murderer, do you? No, so I suggest you be kind and I suggest you be inclusive.
This is so stomach turning. Just to hear you describe it is deeply alarming because it's happening right now to much younger girls too. Not that it was easy at the college level, but you and I both know it's happening to 10-year-olds, to 12-year-olds who don't have any sort of maturity yet to deal with this kind of a thing. And not for nothing, but there's no question in my mind and in the minds of many experts on this issue that it's not normal in any way for an actual gender confused person, an actual trans person, to show off his penis in a women's locker room. The people who make up the 2% of trans people who are legitimately gender confused and have been since birth and have lived their lives like that, they don't want you to see their penis. They're actually trying to hide that and to blend in with women. People who do what Leah Thomas did tend to be overwhelmingly autogynephiles who are aroused sexually by dressing as women and being around women while they're pretending to be women. And so the odds of this guy getting off on the fact that you were uncomfortable are extremely high.